everyone, Adrienne from Alice Scraps Wonderland here with another process video. I'm going to be doing a rainbow colored layout using these die cut and punched out butterflies and a whole bunch of different colors of Tim Holtz Distress inks. I'm going to be using a watercolor technique to add the color to the punched out and die cut butterflies, as well as the background paper, which is watercolor cardstock. You can see I've just swiped some of the colors onto my non-stick craft mat, and I'm using one of my water brush pens to add color to the butterflies. The important thing to remember about watercolor is to add color in layers, and of course the more water you add to the Tim Holtz Distress ink, the lighter the color will be once you apply it to your paper. And of course, if you're not happy with the way something looks, it's easy to go back and add additional color after your elements have dried. If you add color while something is still wet, you'll get a lot of bleeding, which will give you a different look. So it just kind of depends on your own personal preferences. Clean up in between the colors that I'm using just because I don't have very much space to work with, and so when I'm done with the two colors that I'm using for a particular butterfly, I just use a baby wipe or a wet wipe to clean that off of my craft mat and move on to the next colors. Now that I'm done coloring my elements, I'm going to move those aside to let them dry. I'm going to go back and do a second layer of color on them, but in the meantime I'm going to start adding some color to my background page. And for this I've laid out several colors, and I'm just going to go in and just place some color down where I think it might be pretty. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm just thinking about the placement of the photo and where the butterflies will go, and you can see that I kind of add some elements onto the page to help me visualize where I should be putting down my colors on the background. And again, I'm just going back in and adding some more depth with additional color. Now that that top portion has had a chance to dry a little bit, I can go back in and add some color and add layers without it bleeding through and washing out. Now I'm going to do the same with adding more depth and dimension and layers of color to my butterflies. Just to help speed up the process, I'm going to use my heat tool to help dry some of these elements and the background page. Now I'm going to go in with a Tim Holtz Distress ink in Black Soot to color the back of the butterflies. I want them to be three-dimensional on the page, and so I'm not going to glue them completely flat. And if you happen to see the underside of the butterflies, I wanted them to have a little bit of color. And because butterflies generally have one really pretty bright colorful side and one darker, less colorful side of blacks and browns, that's why I'm using Black Soot. And again, I'm just going in with my heat tool to speed up that drying process. Next, I wanted to add some flecks of Black Soot to the front side of the butterflies, just to give them a little bit of that more natural look. And when you heat your paper, don't worry about it curling. You can always heat it from the reverse side to flatten it back out, but since these butterflies will have their wings bent, it doesn't really matter. And you can see here, I'm just going in now with a Color Bloom iridescent spray in white, just to give the butterflies just a hint of glimmer. And now that everything is dry, I'm going to start assembling my page. I'm just adding a little pop of patterned paper to the back of the photo, and I'm placing my elements on about where I think I might like them. I'm visual, so I really enjoy doing that step first before I actually start gluing things down on my page. And I'm also adding some coordinating thread behind my butterflies. I'm just cutting off a long length and nesting it up until it looks nice and messy. I just used some tape runner to add glue to the back of the pattern paper, and I'm adding some foam pop dots to the back of the photo to bring it up off the page a little bit. To glue down the butterflies, I'm just using some glossy accents from Ranger, and once I get it stuck down to the thread, sometimes I need to go back in and add a little bit more to keep this thread and the butterfly adhered to the background paper. Now I'm just going to go in with my water brush pens and Prima's pearlescent watercolor paints and add some coordinating colors to my background paper just to give it a little bit more glimmer and shine. Once all the watercolor has had a chance to dry, I'm just now going in with some soft gloss gel and some Prima Art Stones to give the piece more of a mixed media feel. I think these stones add some great texture and dimension to your projects, whether it's mixed media or scrapbooking pages. Once the soft gloss gel has had a chance to dry and the art stones are adhered to your page, you can go back in with color elements such as paints, watercolors, and so I'm just continuing with the theme of watercolor, and I'm adding some touches of color to those art stones. You'll find that the soft gloss gel may not take color in all spots, but I think that's okay. It really adds character to the piece and gives it that handmade feel. Once the page has had a chance to completely dry, you can add on other elements, and I'm just going to be adding in some lettering, both hand lettering and letter stickers. I love these watercolor letter stickers. I bought them specifically for this client, for her daughters, because I just think colorful pages are so fun for young children. You can see that I added in some pencil lines for myself, and I also pre-penciled out the hand lettering and then went over it with a archival safe black pen. And I always add a little bit of extra sticky to the back of my sticker letters just because this is Colorado. It's so dry here, and those elements have a tendency to fall off after about a year. And to finish up the page, I'm just adding a few iridescent gems that have kind of a oil slick rainbow look to them that I think add really nicely to this page. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this process video and my tips and tricks for creating mixed media watercolor scrapbook pages. For more videos like this, subscribe to my channel.